Hi, my name is Sarah Khan. The date is June 29th, 2025. It is summer semester 2025, and the class is CJJ 4010 Juvenile Justice Administration. So to start off, number one is describe 5 facts about the general juvenile population in the US today. So my first fact is the types of different child maltreatment are medical neglect, neglect or deprivation of necessities, physical abuse, psychological or emotional maltreatment, sexual abuse, and sex trafficking. And where I found this was youth as victims under the different types of child maltreatment listed here. Next is the violent crimes by youth 7 through 17 are more likely to occur in the late afternoon around the close of the school on school day. So where I found this was under offending by youth, under when are youth most likely to commit violent crime. And as you can see here, ages 2 7, 17 mostly occurs around 3 to 4, the closing of the school day on school days more than non-school days. Next is in 2020, juveniles accounted for 1 in 3 arrests for murder, 1 in 10, 20 for aggravated assault, and 1 in 5 for robbery. And I found this under law enforcement and youth crime of what proportions of arrests involve persons under age 18. Next fact is person offenses being male and being white, as well as property offenses, accounted for the largest shares of formal probation caseload from 2005 to 2022. And this is under youth on probation, under what characteristics of cases placed on formal probation. So you can see persons and property are very close together for offenses. Persons being the highest in 2022 most recently, being male and being white being the highest percentages of cases that get placed on formal probation as of 2022. And the last fact is 85% of delinquency cases were handled by juvenile courts, were referred to by law enforcement agencies, and this was under youth in court, found under what proportion of delinquency cases are referred by law enforcement. And as we can see in 2022, 85% were referred, with drugs being the highest, property being second, persons being third, and public order being last. Next, for number 2, the 3 questions that I came up with for the juvenile justice system structure and progress FAQ area were: what is the youngest age that you can get tried as an adult in court? What is the most frequently used residential placement for juveniles? And is probation or community service supervised by the state or by local jurisdiction? So the first one, I found the answer under what is the youngest age that a minor can be transferred to the criminal court and tried as an adult, under juveniles tried as adults? And the answer is 10 specified, 16 oldest, but in technicality, they can be tried younger because in 22 of the states, um, there was no minimum age that was specified. The youngest specified age is 10 in Iowa and Wisconsin. The next question that I'm going to answer is what is the most frequently used residential placement for juveniles? And I found the answer here under Organization and Administration of Delinquency Services. Um, it varies state by state, but the most common seems to be public facilities or private facilities across states. Overall in the United States, 66% being public facilities, long-term facilities 38%, and private facilities being 34% for the United States overall. And the last question is how is probation and community service supervised state by state or by local jurisdiction? So I found the answer under how are supervision probation services operated in each state. So for this, it varies state by state. But as of 2017, the majority seem to be state operated with locally operated, not too far behind it with 22 states versus 20 locally operated and 9 that are mostly state operated, which means it's a mix of state and local operations. And for number 3, describe the reasonings, mechanisms, and data about ages for sending juvenile to criminal adult court. So I found the answers under the youngest age one, that it varies state by state, that the youngest age you can get tried as an adult, again, the youngest seems to be 10, but they could go younger than that since there are 22 states that it's non-specified. And certain felonies can warrant the case being transferred to the adult criminal court, such as serious criminal offenses, and rather than small delinquency acts, especially if they have a lengthy track record of juvenile offenses. And the mechanisms which juveniles are sent to adult criminal court are judicial waiver, statutory exclusion, and direct file. And I found that under here, and their jurisdictional boundaries, um, most commonly being truancy, being runaway, and ungovernability as status offenses. Next is the case flow diagram. So for the case flow diagram, the biggest release stages seem to be diversion. As we can see here, diversion pops up the most. In this corner, the other most common release stage is um, release based on first glance at the chart. Looking at it directly, the flow is very linear, but it can still be confusing without the descriptions underneath here that gives you the kind of step-by-step process of how things do flow. The descriptions give us a more detailed explanation of the flow between the process of juvenile justice system and how it works compared to the regular criminal justice system used for adults. It describes the outputs and options of each proceeding in the system. The first step, usually starting, as we can see at the top here, with law enforcement in this corner. In the state. As we learned through the FAQs previously, each state process is different for juveniles and can either be handled at the state or local level. Um, From there is diversion or referral to the courts and through the respective law enforcement agencies. Each state varies. They can be charged as a juvenile and go through these proceedings here, or they may choose to charge them as adults and go through the criminal justice system through judicial waivers and transfer, as well as statutory exclusion, to be processed through the adult criminal justice system and charged as an adult rather than through the juvenile. Um, they also may be sent to detention, as we see down here through these um, detention facilities during proceedings if they feel that it's a necessity for the community to protect them. From there, they can be given probation, residential placement, or other types of disposition if not transferred to the criminal court. And as we can see through here, the residential placement, the aftercare, and probation or non-residential disposition all have the outcome of release at some point. Thank you for watching.